want you to take from this a thorough understanding of the real estate purchase process. I know sometimes buying a home or some of the stories that you've heard about buying a home could be tragic or stressful, but if you do your due diligence and take the action that we explained here today, the process is simple. It's straight to the point, and there's really no nonsense. Make sure you have a good team around you. We talk about that. We want you to understand the importance of having a good team around you and making sure, again, to prepare yourself for what if. You know, when I was 19, I was a sophomore in college. I had just did a scholarship application a semester before, and to my surprise, I got the scholarship. And it was a large amount in addition to my grant money. And so instead of, you know, what a normal 19-year-old kid would do, your J's, your Jordans, your new car to get you from point A to point B, I bought a house. I used that money to buy my first real estate deal. It was in a college town up in UNT, up near Denton. And the market was so funny at that point. All you really needed was a pulse. I mean, if you had one of those things beaten, you can walk into a bank, sign on a dotted line, and they'll give you a loan. Literally, it was that easy. I was 19. I just had a little bit of money from a scholarship, barely had I had a part-time job at a bank, and I got a house. You know, at that time, it was about an $85,000 asset at 19. Listen, nobody could tell me anything. I want y'all to know that. But, you know, the market was different, right? And then, of course, you guys know what happened in 2007, 8, 9, when the bottom fell out. We hit the one of the largest, you know, crises on the economy that we've ever seen. Well, I've seen in my lifetime. I know, you know, some people have seen some other things, but, you know, in my lifetime, it was pretty bad. And a lot of that happened because of the real estate and the real estate market. And so when I got my first house, you know, my agent, she was decent. She was cool. She kind of led me through the process, but really led me astray and let me do this whole thing on my own. And I realized at that moment that there are other people out there that aren't as quite savvy as I was at that time that may be getting taken advantage of. And so, you know, just, you know, by the way of the market, you know, I wanted to come into this thing just as a real estate investor, you know, young, ambitious, but everything fell out and I became a realtor. And I vowed at that time when I got my license that I would ensure that I educated my clients on this entire real estate process, right? And so that's why Scottie Smith & Associates, we are real estate advisors instead of real estate salespeople. So it's a big difference when you advise somebody properly versus to just selling them on something. So anyway, what we're going to talk about today is a new pathway to homeownership. I see two people that were at the lunch and learn yesterday. Two people that were at outside of our nifty camera folks, but two people that were at the lunch and learn yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and, you know, I was going to start at my stopping point yesterday, but I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna start at the very, very beginning. We're gonna run through this from decision to close. This is 40 steps. I want you guys to take notes. It's 40 steps to buying a home. A lot of people feel like buying a property or buying real estate or getting involved in real estate is difficult. It really is not if you have the right team, you have the right knowledge and education behind you. It's a very simple process, but you have to know what you're doing coming into it. And I'm not telling you to be the expert, right? Because we got experts out here, you know, who spend time, money, energy on educating themselves about this whole thing so we can guide and advise you properly. But what I am telling you is to be knowledgeable enough to know when something smells crazy, all right? And so that's what it's really all about. I want to ensure that I'm instilling in you guys today. And if you call me tomorrow and the next day or whatever, I want to make sure that you have a thorough understanding about this process so that you don't get tripped up like a lot of people did in the early 2000s, okay? All right, so we're going to jump into it. The new pathway. At the end of this deal, I'm going to talk to you about some things that are very similar to what happened in early 2000s, but, you know, there are some, it's dressed up differently. You know, it looks a little different, but it's very, very similar. But I say that because it's an opportunity, since you now have the right knowledge. By the time we're done here, you'll have the right knowledge to know how to navigate this thing. But I want to make sure that you understand that you can take advantage of some of these new opportunities that are out there to, one, buy a home, owner occupied where you want to live. Two, buy investment properties. I just read this morning that, the Republican on the House side just got rid of Dodd-Frank Act, or they voted to pull it out. That's the overarching kind of regulation that regulated the banks and lenders and all that stuff. So they're trying to repeal that. And so now we're really starting to look like early 2000s. So what we can do is we can let it hurt us or push us along in what we're trying to do from a financial standpoint. All right. So anyway, getting to it. So you guys want to buy a home. How many homeowners do we have? Is there anybody in here that owns a home? Okay. All right. I'm about to break this down to its simplest form. If it seems oversimplified, I'm sorry that you had a difficult process, okay? All right, so you want to buy a home. Here's the thing, here's the reality. You have to understand what you're about to get yourself into, right? This is one of the largest transactions that, from a financial standpoint, that many people will ever make. We're talking $150,000, $200,000, $300,000. So understand the realities of that, and then really, here's the thing. Make it up in your mind that it's important for you to know what's about to happen, what's going on. Make that up in your mind right now, right? Don't go through this process. Don't jump into it with the expectation that somebody's going to handle it for you, right? Understand you have to have some type of knowledge. Something behind you has to, in your mind has to click. I need to know what's going on, right? Enough to be dangerous. But, you still got people that are hired out there to help you out, okay? And so this process, like I said, is simple, but it's about preparation. It's about making sure you're prepared on the front end so that you don't trip yourself up along the way. And if you hire the right person to help you out, if you hire the right lender, realtor, insurance inspector, all of those people, your team is going to be solid, and it'll help you along the way, okay? So these first 12 or so steps are going to be really duh moments, but a lot of clients that I sit with don't really think about it. And, we get to people and, they're sitting in our conference room and they're saying, I want to do this, but they don't even have an understanding or a grasp on their expenses. What are you spending now, right? It's more than just what's on your credit report. When the lender pulls your credit, they're going to say, okay, yep, based on your credit, you got this bill, and this bill, and that's it, right? But in your mind, you have to pay for your cell phone. You have to pay for, you want to go get your nails and hair done, at least once a month. You want to go do this, and you have an entertainment budget. Those are items that aren't on your credit report that they're basing the mortgage approval on. And so I want you to do an analysis on what you actually spend. Don't let a lender tell you what you can afford. Say, hey, listen, based on my spending habits, based on what I like to do, I like to travel, I like to take the grandkids and have a good time. Based on what I like to do, this is how much I feel comfortable paying. And then let them tell you. And step two is really consider the tax benefits. Compare renting versus buying. I read an article that really disturbed me not too long ago. And it says something along the lines of why renting is more beneficial than buying. I stopped for a second. I said, who is this person on this article? Because to me, it makes no sense, right? And, she built an argument on, if you take what you would save here and invest it in equities and all of that stuff, then you make more money over a certain amount of time. I'm not going to bore you with all that. But essentially what she's saying is she's bringing in other variables, right? Where the normal and the average person, they're not going to say, okay, If I spend $1,200 in rent and take the $300 that I would spend on a $1,500 mortgage and invest it into equities, how many people are really thinking like that? I mean, if you really think like that, like, come holler at me, because I need you to help me with some things. But the average person is not thinking in that regard. They're thinking, okay, I have my rent versus my buy. I'm spending $1,200 here, or I can spend $1,500 here. Well, the reality is you have tax benefits with buying a home, right? You can write off the interest, you can write off the insurance, all those things you can add on your tax return. They got a nice little, I saw some National Black MBA folks here, the accountants. I know I saw somebody that raised their hand and said that was you? Okay, yeah. Am I right? I know there's a tax benefit there. So you can write that off. In addition to that, you got appreciation of the property. You know, you got the resale value at the end of it. When you rent, at the end of that 12, 24 months, what happens? How much of that money is that landlord getting back? And you got to hire the best maid service and the best contractor to cover up all the walls just to get your $100 deposit back. So the likelihood that you get anything back at the end of that 12 or 24 months is very, very slim. When buying, consider what you could possibly sell that property for at the end of, when you decide to sell it, okay? Step 3, okay? Consider your first home as an investment. So I saw 3 people that raised their hand so far, or 4 people that raised their hand that said they're homeowners. So my assumption is everybody else would be a first-time home buyer. Is that right? Okay. Here is what I want to spill out to you guys. Look at your first home as an investment. It's not going to be the prettiest, the biggest, the widest with the most land, that one that you saw, in the back of a magazine when you were flying somewhere. It won't be that. You don't have to shoot for that. If you consider your first home as an investment, there's a reason why investors invest in real estate, right? Because it makes sense. Real estate is a relatively safe investment. You can walk up to that property, touch it, it's there so long as you make your payments. You see it, right? That's a safe investment. So think about this. You can buy from 1 to 4 units with the FHA financing. You can live in one, rent the other 3 out. Or if it's a duplex, live on one side, rent the other side out. Or if it's just a single family resident, right? What you can do, live in that house. They got Airbnb and they got all these other services out there where you can rent out rooms for the day, and make money. Those are options that you can do with your first home and consider it as an investment. Even if it has some bumps and bruises, right? You're not planning on moving next week. I hope not. What you can do, what I call was a paint party. That first property that I had, I said, hey, we're going to have a paint party. Had some folks come over, plugged the box in, we were jamming, we got the painting. It looked a little crazy afterwards, but we had a good time, Consider that as an option. So as you're going through this planning, this is the due diligence phase and the due diligence process of this whole thing. And again, prepare mentally. It's all about preparation with anything that you do. Like I said, this is a large investment. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. So consider the preparation of this from a mental standpoint, right? I know that it's easy for people to lean towards stressing out. I know that. Like, I'm stressed out. I want to do X, Y, and Z. Can you do this? I want to be pushy with the agent. I want to be pushy with the lender. Listen, there's a process by which you have to follow, right? And preparation for this whole deal will allow for you to be less stressed throughout the process. And listen, as agents, as brokers, right? As brokers, let us handle the stress of the transaction. I know it's easier said than done for most people. I told my mom she's the biggest worrier I know, especially to be a Christian. She stresses about everything. I'm like, Mom, I'm selling your house. I got this. I've been doing it. Well, I don't know. Listen, I know it's easier said than done, but if you just go ahead and prepare yourself up front for everything that you need to know, the likelihood that you'll be stressed or hit with surprises is very low. Not going to say it's going to be 100% and 100% zero, but, if you're prepared, you're less likely to be stressed out, okay? All right, so this is about doing your due diligence before you even step with the lender. Look on that, say, listen, let me creditkarma.com, credit check total, credit sesame, credit sense, all those are places you can go to check your credit report just to see what's on there, right? If you have any derogatory marks, go ahead and work on having those removed, right? Find out what's on your credit. A lot of people come into our office and sit down and they have this dream of buying a home. Listen, I'm really good at this, but I'm not a miracle worker. Be honest with you. And so we see some really, really interesting things. A lot of this stuff, it takes, 10 minutes to set up a Credit Karma account? You pull it up and say, okay, well, I have this, this, and this, but my scores still say 600. Can I do something with this? Let's go talk to a lender, or let's go talk to a real estate professional. Versus to, I got this, 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 and this. I still want to buy a house. People in hell want ice water too. And, that's just an old school thing that my mom used to say. Like, I understand what it is you want, but if you're not willing to do the necessary things and the necessary homework ahead of time, then we really can't help you. So review what's on your credit and make sure it's accurate. Anything that doesn't make sense to you, you can go dispute it and say, hey, listen, I have this, but I know this and this aren't mine, so can we dispute this or work on doing something like that, okay? Then find out your scores, right? FHA requirement, the general FHA requirement is 580 for your credit for a loan. Most lenders have what are called overlays, where they require a higher score because their investors won't come in and buy the loan if the person has a lower score than that. Some don't. We'll talk about those at the end. But just, prepare yourself, right? If you're at 620, you're cool. 640, you're better. 650 and above, of course, we can make some things happen for you. Just find out what it is. It's better to be prepared when you come and sit down with the real estate professional and say, hey, listen, this is on my credit report. This is what my scores are, roundabout. What can we make happen? Okay? All right. Number 7. This is so funny that I even had to put this in here, but I did. And I did specifically for a reason. Be sure that you have a job, and not just a job, but something that's verifiable, right? You get a check or a direct deposit, or you have you pretty much can tell the lender, look, this is what I do. Okay, this cash deposit is from this job, and there are some new programs out there these days where you can do bank statement loans. However, for the majority of buyers, having verifiable income is important, right? The same thing with your tax returns, right? Especially if anybody out there is a business owner, and we like to write off everything to bring our adjusted gross income all the way down, right? So here's the reality. If you're not showing any income on your tax returns, me as a lender, or somebody as a lender, or David back there as a lender, is it going to be safe for me to invest in you if you have no income? I have nothing that says you can pay me back. Your tax returns say you can't pay me back. So be a little modest when you're doing your deductions, especially if you're preparing to purchase a home. So consider that when you're doing your due diligence and preparation. And then make a commitment to start saving money. Whether or not you use that in the home buying process, that's fine. But make the commitment and start doing it. You have things like earnest money, you have inspections, your appraisal, minor closing costs that may come in, all of those things, right? You have to have that up front in some cases. And so if you go ahead and make that commitment now, you can have that ready when it's time for you to buy, okay? Again, we're going to talk about some down payment and closing cost assistance programs. However, I want you guys to just kind of prepare for the what if. Prepare for, hey, I may not get this down payment assistance. I may not get this closing cost assistance. If you really want a house, go ahead and start saving some of that money right now. All right, especially if you're dealing with a traditional lender. You know, that'll show them, hey, these people are serious. They're trying to help themselves. Let me see where I can come in and help them out at. You know, that makes sense, y'all? Okay. This goes without saying, paying your bills on time, especially during the process, right? Especially during the process. So say, for instance, we've gotten the house, we've gotten your pre-approval, and you decide over that 30 or 45-day period that you're not going to pay a couple bills. That could blow up the whole deal. You done scheduled your movers, you done scheduled all these folks, you know, and now you can't get the deal because your credit score has dropped, you know, because of the missed payments. So get into the habit of paying every bill on time. Number 10, make intentional deposits and withdrawals to your accounts, right? So if here's my advice. If you're planning to buy a home, make sure you can track everything that comes in and goes out of your account. A lender will look at cash deposits and see, you know, a $2,000 deposit that's, you know, cash or unverifiable, and they won't even consider that as money that could be used for your down payment or closing costs. And so they'll say, look, you don't even have the money. You don't even have the money to close. And you're like, yes, I do. It's right here. Okay, well, tell me where this came from. Well, I got that from, you know, they'll ask for what's called letters of explanation. And the underwriter has to clear that out. Same thing with withdrawals. Don't take any money out of your account that is set aside for buying a home. It doesn't make sense, and here's why. When a lender goes in and looks at your accounts again and has you send them your bank account, they'll say, listen, I see at one point you had this amount of money set aside for your down payment and closing costs. However, now you're at this amount of money. What happened? You don't have enough to cover X, Y, and Z. That can either delay or even, you know, that can blow up the entire deal for you. All right? And here's the key thing, budget, budget, budget. I said it before and I'm saying it again. Understanding that preparation for this whole deal is key, and understanding what you can afford to pay and what you're comfortable paying. You know, once you get in front of a lender and they say, listen, you know, based on your income and the debts that are reported on your credit report, you can afford this much house. And a lot of people get excited. I can spend $250,000? Let's go. But in reality, they're only comfortable making payments on a $200,000 home, or $175,000 home, or $150,000 home. Only you know what you're comfortable paying by your budget. Don't let a lender tell you what you can and can't, or what you can do, or what you should do. Say, listen, I understand that you can approve me for that much because lenders are in the business of selling money. That's what they sell. However, if you're not comfortable with that because of your budget, then don't do it. And now that lender that I've been talking about all this time, we go sit with them. Talk to a mortgage lender to find out what you can afford. Sit with them. I say before you even go sit with the realtor, go sit with the lender, or call a lender, or call a realtor and say, who do you use to work with your clients? Then go sit with them. They're going to do all the stuff that you already prepared. They're going to pull your credit. They're going to look at your income. They're going to look at your bank statements. They're going to look at all this stuff I just told you to prepare for. At that point, you can say, look, I'm good. How much can I get? How much money are you willing to lend me? You know, you walk in there with a little chip on your shoulder, you know, come in and do your thing like, yo, give me my money. And then step 13, lucky number 13. Full disclaimer, I'm a real estate broker, licensed by the Texas Real Estate Commission. Drop that in here. I always recommend navigating the real estate transaction with a real estate professional or a realtor, all right? Don't attempt to navigate a home purchase without the help of a qualified professional. I like to tell people this all the time. I think I'm a very smart guy. but I will never walk into a courtroom again without the help of an attorney. Had a situation, I thought I was cold. Case was solid. I was representing myself. Went and sat up there. I was trying to explain. The person that was going up against me had an attorney. Attorney was good too. I'm trying to tell my story, and all she kept saying was objection. I'm like, yo, I'm just trying to, nah, you can't do that, Judge. So at that point, I just kind of gave up. You know what? Forget it. And so I like to relate the real estate process to that, because no matter how smart you are, no matter how good you are at the things that you're good at, no matter how you excel in your profession, if you are up against a real estate or somebody who's represented by a real estate agent, you're going to lose most of the time. Most of the time you'll lose. And so go ahead and hire you an agent who knows what they're doing and who are familiar with the market to help you navigate that thing. All right? And again, that's, I'm licensed by Texas Real Estate Commission, got to disclaim that, or disclose that rather. So what your realtor will help you do outside of navigating the real estate process, outside of helping you with the negotiations, they're going to help you understand the local market. Who understands what's going on in our market today in Dallas? Anybody? Yes, sir. What's up, man? How you doing? Good.
What I've seen so far right now is the seller's market.
Seller's market.
The seven corporations moving from LA to Bristol, Plano.
Yep.
That particular market is very hot, but around really Dallas, DeSoto, Cedar Hill, they're still building. And
Yep.
downtown, they're building a lot of lofts and hotels and things of that nature. So really, it's a seller's market, but depending on where you are, it could be a slight buyer's market, but you're going to lose right now in terms of that.
Thank you, sir. So what Jay just alluded to is two things that I was already going to touch on. One, understanding the local market. Your agent should be able to tell you if it's a buyer market or a seller market, or is it just a neutral market. They should be able to help you understand that. And simply put, we're in a seller's market for the most part here in the DFW area. And the reason is because there's more buyers than there are houses available. Right? And so what that does is it affects your the way you negotiate your contract. It affects the terms of your the price of your contracts, right? But in some areas, like you said, they're building left and right. They're builders everywhere because the builders recognize that there's not enough inventory, so we're going to throw some things up. So, you just have to understand what's going on. Your realtor will help you understand that.
Scottie?
Yes.
So just because it's a seller's market, help me understand this, because I recently bought, right? So just because it's a seller's market, that doesn't mean that you don't buy.
Exactly.
And so that's, I think it's a misnomer that you don't want to buy in a seller's market because it's somehow disadvantaged. You still want to buy because it's a long-term good investment to deal with.
That's a great point. And thank you for making that. And here's why you want to buy. Typically, most sellers markets, if you've been kind of keeping up with real estate, it's really been a seller's market since about 2013, 2014. So we're in 2017 now. It's been about 3 years. I think for the most part in this area, we'll see it continue to be the same, which will mean it's simple supply and demand. You got more buyers than you do inventory, so the home prices will continue to increase until at some point it just plateaus off. So I think for another 2 to 3 years we'll continue to see home prices increase. So you want to buy now, and I've been saying, hey, buy now, buy now. I think I led with that in my last presentation back in 2014. Buy now, buy now, buy now. Right? And some people just say, oh, you're a realtor, you're just saying that you want to make. I'm like, I don't have a crystal ball, but I kind of have my pulse on what's happening, and things will continue to increase. And so, now in the city of Dallas, the average price for a brand new home is $477,000, whereas just a few years ago, back in 2011, that number was $145,000. So you think about that big. That's $300,000 difference. And I've been saying it for a minute. So, but understand your local market. Understand that just because it is a seller's market doesn't mean don't buy. That means you need to go ahead and make a move and be strategic and have the right people around you to help you get what it is you're looking for. Okay? Again, all of this is dealing with your realtor. When you select them, they're going to help you, figure out what it is you're wanting. Your lender has given you your pre-approval. They've told you how much you can qualify for. You've decided how much you want to spend based on what you can afford, based on your budget. So just communicate with your realtor what it is that you want, and then view homes online. Listen, if you have Zillow or Trulia or anything other than Realtor.com or my app on your phone, delete it right now. I'm telling you right now, delete it. Who has it on your phone? Delete it. Delete it too. If you need an online portal to search, you can download my app, go to scottie-smith.com, or you can go to Realtor.com. Most of these sites are so inaccurate that it makes you, it stresses you out, because you'll send us a property that you really like. And you're like, ooh, this is perfect. It's a great price. And it sold back in 2011. It's like, dude, what are you doing? I told you not to go on Zillow or Trulia. Well, I just thought I could do it on my own. You know how we get, I do it on my own. And you send it to me again 2 or 3 times until we finally say, listen, are you going to let me do my job, or you want to do this? Zillow and Trulia, what they do is they get a one-way feed from what we give them. But because Texas is a non-disclosure state, they don't get our sales prices. They don't get when things sell, unless an agent goes in and manually puts it into Zillow, Trulia, Homes.com, and all those other secondary sites. So most of the time, what Zillow and Trulia have are inaccurate, okay? So keep that in mind. Typically, your agent will give you MLS Access. We have all these new technologies that I think y'all will love: cloud storage, cloud CMA, MLS. You got your agent dashboard. You have the same access that we have as agents. We can give that to you from a client side. You can search and do everything you do on Zillow through what your agent sends you. Again, just trying to make your life less stressful throughout this process, okay? And again, just narrowing down your search. This is what I like to tell people. Considering the market that you're in and considering the market that you're wanting to buy in, be realistic. Again, consider this whole deal as an investment. Be realistic, though. I have clients that want the moon, stars, sun, and everything in between, but only want to pay rock bottom prices for it. Again, I'm good, but I'm not a miracle worker. And some of the things that we see from clients and some of the things that we hear from clients, we have to make a decision, an executive decision, if we really want to work with them. It's because the expectations are way too high, and we're not going to put ourselves in a situation where we're trying to live up to that expectation. You want us to find you a 5-bedroom, 2-bath in the heart, or a 5-bedroom, 3-bath in the heart of the city on 2 acres for $150,000. If I find that, I'm going to tell you this, I'm not going to sell it to you. I'm going to buy it myself. And that's just the reality of it. And so, be specific, very specific, and then, try to narrow down and be realistic what it is your top picks are. What your agent will do then after is schedule your homes, right? It's not difficult from that point. You say, listen, we've done all of our due diligence in the first 10 or so steps, or 10 to 12, or 1 to 12. That was our due diligence process. We've done everything that we needed to do from the front end. Now this is the fun part of the whole deal. We've decided that we want this. We see that we can afford this. And these are the top 4, 5, maybe even 7 that I like. I know it's a seller's market, so I'm gonna go after it, because if it's not there, when I get there, or if it's not gone when I'm there, it'll be gone tomorrow. That's how quickly things are moving out here. So you want to make sure that what it is you want is still there. So go out and view them. Don't be scared to make an offer. Don't be scared to make an offer. Don't be surprised if you find exactly what you're looking for on that very first time you're out. Because I'm going to tell you this. I had a client where we had 5 homes on our list, 5 of them, and we were going to see them. Kid you not, by the time we got to the first house, or that 5th house, the first house was already under contract. And it wasn't when I when we start to go see it. So things are moving extremely fast in a seller's market. So don't be surprised if you find exactly what you're looking for on that first go round and make an offer. So once you make an offer and it's accepted by all parties, you come to an agreement, you're now under contract. What you're going to do is you're going to take that contract to what's called, or your agent is going to take that contract to what's called a title company. Do we have any title company reps in here? I think we had a couple yesterday. But anyway, a title company, what they do is they insure the past. They're the only insurance company that insures the past. They make sure that the property is able to be sold by the person that's selling it, right? Because the last thing that we want when we buy a property is somebody to knock into our door. I need you to get out my house. My grandmother, left this for us, and this is my house. So what do you do at that point, right? What do you do at that situation? And you know what? Funny story, it's happened in Dallas. It was about a year and a half ago. I don't know if anybody heard about that story about the man that was found buried in his backyard. And a guy was out there, perpetrating like he was that man and selling off all his properties, right? Well, the title company that closed all of those deals had to go back and, fix the situation. And so that's what the title insurance does. So you always want to close any real estate transaction with a title attorney, a real estate attorney, or most importantly, a title company, because they do all that stuff. And then they give you insurance to make sure that if anything comes up, that you're clear and you're good to go. They take care of it, all the legal, et cetera. Yes, ma'am. I'm not going to speak on the legal aspect of that, but I haven't seen a case. Most of our TREC contracts, though, there's a paragraph that says, hey, what title company are we using to close this? Most realtors understand that we're going to close this, at a title company. One, it just makes it, it gives you security, make sure you're getting title insurance, and it makes sure that, everybody's doing what they need to do. It's really up to the clients. Typically, realtors advise where we should use. We typically have the network of title companies, but I've had clients that said, hey, I want to use this title company.
But if you don't really know, I know when I bought mine, it's not like I selected one. I didn't have a Rolodex.
Yep.
But I don't know if my agent is steered me to a title company or if it was mortgage company.
Yeah, so typically what happens is the listing agent will have a preferred title company and the buyer will have a preferred title company. And they just come to terms. A lot of times the client, the buyer, nor the seller really care, is this person reputable? Are they going to steal my money once they wire it? Because there are title companies out there that have done that within the past 12 months, have gotten shut down because of that. So it's just making sure you have a reputable title company, making sure they're bonded, insured, have E&O insurance. Yeah, I mean, just like any other industry, there are about 4 major ones with federal title, pretty much underwriting many of them. So if they're underwritten by federal title, man, they're a pretty solid title company. Yes, sir.
I don't know if you already know this, but I know on my second house, I had a little bit of an option period.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about the importance of the earnest money and the option period after you go on contract before the inspection.
Yep. So that's actually during this period. That's a very, very, very good point. And so get a home inspection. So we talked a little about that upfront money that you need, and one of those things is called option money. It's typically about $10 a day. And what that option money does is it gives you the option to back out of that contract without recourse for a specific number of days. And so what does that mean? So we're going to say we need 10 days. We need 10 days to just think on it, So you'll pay the seller $100, pay them $100, and we'll take that time to think on it. You know, we want to think on it. You know, during that time period, we typically get a home inspection to make sure we're not buying a lemon, right? We want to make sure, you know, it's nice and painted. You know, the brick is cool. Everything seems decent, but we want to get somebody in there to kind of check out the plumbing and the electrical and all the other stuff that we can't see with our eyes or unless you're a plumber or electrician. But, you know, we want to make sure that what we're getting is not going to break down as soon as we close on the documents. Because again, largest transaction, you want to make sure you're getting a safe investment. And if you don't, I'll never tell a client not to get an inspection. I'll never tell a client that. Unless they're an investor and they're coming in expecting to spend a whole bunch of money, then, you know, we'll forego that $350. And so your home inspection, typically $350 to $400, set that to the side. All right? Any questions so far? We're at the halfway point, or a little bit beyond the halfway point. I'm gonna stop right here, see if we got any questions before we go through. Yes, sir.
With the inspection process, what does the inspection process for like a condo look like?
Same.
The same.
Yeah.
Is it just your unit, or are they looking at the entire?
So they're going to look at the unit itself,
Okay.
right? And so your units, you know, you're going to have electrical, plumbing, you know, those same things. You won't have the same or the same exact things that you'll have on a single family residence because, you know, it doesn't have its own foundation or its own roof. But you still want to make sure you go in, have somebody check out the electrical, make sure the electrical panel is not outdated, make sure you don't have, you know, crazy copper plumbing or something like that. Copper wires, you know, so they'll still make sure you're good in that regard. Any more questions? So really, this is, you know, we're in a home stretch at this point, right? We've gotten the inspection, we've signed off on everything. We said, listen, we love this house. You start telling your friends, you start planning movers, got the folks coming to deliver the furniture, right? They got, listen, I need y'all to deliver me some new furniture in 30 days. But there's some key items that I want you guys to pay attention to, okay? This is part of the preparation. This is part of making sure that you can make this last stretch extremely easy. It's about 21 days, sometimes faster depending on the lender, right? So general rule of thumbs, write this down. 2 years of W-2s, 2 years of tax returns, 2 months of bank statements, 2 months of paycheck stubs. David, did I miss anything?
No, that's good to go.
Okay. This is what they're going to look at. Okay? If you have all this ready, you'll make your lender's life so easy. And they can get through your file much quicker. And by bank statements, you know, that can be your retirement account, investment accounts, anything that, you know, where you have money stored. So get you the last 2 months statements. Start working on that now. I know some teachers, you know, with their, yes, sir.
I do want to throw one thing in. We spoke about like stuff like large deposits and stuff like that. So if you're getting like gift funds from somebody or you've gotten a deposit or gift from somebody, they're going to need that same stuff too as well with respect to bank statements as well. So make sure they know they may have to provide bank statements as well to kind of back up the money that they may have given you for a gift as well.
And so to that, the reason that they do that is essentially they want to make sure that there's no illegal money flowing through the system. Is that right?
Correct, yeah, no.
They want to make sure that, you know, the $2,000 or the $5,000 that you're getting as a gift fund or gift money from a family member isn't from, you know, illegal bootlegging or illegal drug sales.
You're talking about if it's done on a regular basis, not if it's just a one-time thing.
If it's just a one-time
Yeah,
thing.
it's a one-time.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you back that up?
So what he'll do, so say for instance you're getting, your dad is giving you some money, you know, yeah, for your, well, specifically in the purposes of buying a home, and they're saying, hey, I'm gonna give you $2,000 to help with your closing costs, okay, and he gives you a check, and you deposit it, sign it, deposit it into your bank account, and you say this money, this $2,000 is specifically gonna be used for purchasing the home. Your lender is gonna say, great, I need your dad to also provide me the 2 months bank statements to verify the money that he's got to give you or that he's received to give you is not from an illegal source. Does it make sense?
Yeah, but if it's, say I'm buying a home, and it just so happened to be my birthday, and my mama give me some money, and I take that money, I wanna use it towards that.
Okay.
I still have to prove that?
I'm a,
That's correct, yeah. Any deposits in your account, we have to approve where they came from.
I'm glad you came. So make sure you write this down, 2, 2, 2, and 2. 2 years of W-2s, 2 years of tax returns, 2 months of bank statements, 2 months, is it last 2 or 2 months of paycheck stubs? It's the last 2, right?
Well, for us, we do 30 days. So
Okay.
It can't hurt to have 2 months.
If you have 2 months, listen, you're making their life easy, okay? You've gotten all that, what'll happen? You know, you've signed off on the home inspection, you're good to go. What will happen from that point is your lender will order a home appraisal, right? They'll tell you the valuation of that house. That appraiser is gonna say, listen, this property is worth this much money. The amount of the contract is good, or the amount of the contract is too high. Y'all need to come down to where we are, right? Again, your agent's gonna help you navigate once you receive that appraisal. If it comes in too high, or excuse me, too low, say for instance you have a $175,000 contract, but the property only appraises for $165,000, right? Your agent should really never let you pay more than that. You know, there are some instances where they'll say, okay, well, if you really, really want this house, then pay that. But there's a third-party financing addendum that says if you do not get the appraised value, right, if that appraised value doesn't meet the contract, you can back out of the contract without losing your earnest money, or you guys can bring it down to where the appraisal is. With FHA appraisals, that FHA appraisal stays on that property for 6 months. So from a seller's perspective, if it comes in low, you know, and they're trying to sell it, you know, to another FHA buyer, it's gonna be 6 months before it gets a different appraised value. So really, you know, you really got a leg up at that point. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, suppose the house is appraised more.
Yes, ma'am.
Than what the, you know, what you're buying for in a contract. How do you leverage that, say if it's worth even an additional $25,000? How do you leverage that additional $25,000 going into something that you buy, you know, that has that type of equity? Can you negotiate back with the lender on a down payment situation, or what would you suggest if you're a real estate investor and you're buying property that's more than it, you know, than
So we're talking about from a real estate investment standpoint, or just your, you know,
well,
your
just
owner
both. I
occupancy?
mean, because the thing is, it seems like to me, if you're buying a house that's appraised more than what you're paying for,
Yep.
from a leverage standpoint, you know, me as a consumer, it should be where I should be able to, you know, even though I haven't bought the house
Right.
yet, but, you know, it's an advantage, you know, to go in and buy a house that's more than what it's worth, to be able to leverage that additional money that you have on that house. That's all.
That's a very good question. 2 things. First, it does give you leverage. You know, if you have a house that's $175,000 contract and it's worth $200,000, from day one you have $25,000 in equity already built into the home, right? And so, you know, a year or so, or it's either 6 months for some banks. Some banks require 12-month aging. You can do a cash out refi, maybe, you know. Or what I've seen, if there's a little bit more in the home based on what the appraisal is, what you can do is say, hey, listen, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we're going to increase the price by this much and have, you know, a concession of X amount of dollars for closing costs or whatever added to the contract. And so I've seen that. We've done that in some cases. I had a client who did that and actually walked away from closing with a little bit of money. And so there are options. Depending on where you are in your investing cycle, it would, you know, it depends on how I would advise you in that case. You know, if this is just your very first home and, you know, the home needed a little bit of work and you didn't want to, you know, have to pay a whole bunch of cash or a whole bunch of additional cash outside of what you're paying to purchase the house, I'll say, listen, you know, we got we have, say, $15,000 in equity. How about we do this? Raise the price up a little bit, have them contribute to cover, your closing costs, right? And so that check for closing, you don't have to bring to the table. You can use that for your repairs. So there are a number of different ways we can navigate that. It really just depends on the situation. But it is doable. Yes, sir. Yep.
I know they have very stringent rules.
Mhm.
So if you're in a situation where the house that you're buying, it gets appraised for lower than what the seller is selling it for, and it may change, you may do more than it, but the VA will not let you purchase that house at that price. You have to go down to the appraisal because that's the way their loan is structured.
Yep, that's exactly what I actually just said. Yep, you have to bring it down to the price of the appraisal. Understanding your payments. This is another reason I don't like Zillow, Trulia, or any of those other sites. Because when they show you your payment, right, you see, get a $350,000 house for a mortgage of $1,200. Now you have a misconception that we're going to come in this whole thing, we're going to buy $350,000 worth of home and only spend $1,200 on our mortgage, on our full payment, right? And it covers, that amount is somewhat true, but it's misleading. That pays your principal and interest, yes it does. But most lenders require that you do what's called escrow holdbacks, which includes your taxes and your insurance. So PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. All that's typically wrapped up in your monthly mortgage payment. And there's one element that's not in there, but I'd say we'll group it with your insurance. Depending on what type of loan you have, there's this thing called PMI, or MI as some people will call it, which is mortgage insurance, right? So you got your home insurance. That makes sure, if something happens, you can call the insurance company, they're gonna come fix it. Then you have your title insurance that covers the title of the house. If something happens, they come and fix it. And then you got your mortgage insurance, which is a little bit, it's funnier because that doesn't protect you, it protects the banks, right? You pay that insurance premium, and what happens if you foreclose on your home, the government comes and bails them out because they have insurance on that deal. You got to pay that though. So funny. Funny how the economy works.
So the mortgage insurance, that's usually if you're not doing a traditional loan, you're paying the 20% down, or,
So
how do you get around the mortgage insurance?
there's a couple different ways to get around mortgage insurance, depending on the type of loan that you have. FHA, ain't no getting around that. It used to be to the point where, once you got 20% equity, that PMI went away. But, the new requirements as of, I believe, 2008, 2009, that PMI stays on there for the life of the loan. And that's to protect us from another, protect the banks from another crisis. Although I don't think that's going to even help us since we're kind of rolling back a lot of things. But and then there are other specialized programs, CRA programs, NACA that we're going to talk about that don't have PMI. So there are different ways around that. I'm going to teach you about that in a second. Estimate and contract your closing costs, or estimate and understand your closing costs, what it should say. Again, the two people that you have in your corner at this point are your realtor and your lender. They're going to be the most involved in the process with you. It's going to be like, the big three down in Miami. Y'all going to be winning, right? Y'all three are going to work through this whole thing, but your lender is going to be the one who says, listen, this is how much you got. This is how much it's going to cost you. This is how much closing costs you need. You got it or you don't. What can you bring? And then they'll, of course, they'll introduce some programs that can help you out, okay? All this processing, again, the lender, let me tell you this. Your lender is going to be in your business. They're going to be invasive. Let me tell you, they're going to look at all of your tax stuff, your W-2s. They're going to look at everything that you're spending on. They're going to be invasive. Let me tell you, it is, it's understandable though. They're loaning you quite a bit of money and they want to make sure that they can get their money back at some point. And so they have to do all of the due diligence. And then they're going to say, all right, you got all this, so we're going to give it to our loan officer. Then the loan officer is going to give it to our processor. Then guess what? Our processor is going to give it to the underwriter. So you got quite a bit of people on the loan side that are touching your file, that are looking at it, and everybody's going to have their own set of questions. But you know this, right? And you understand, listen, I need to make sure that I have my X's and O's taken care of, my I's dotted, my T's crossed from the beginning. Those first 12 steps, that's what due diligence is, making sure you do everything up front so that when they say, listen, I see this $2,000 deposit, what is this? And do you have X, Y, and Z? Yep, here it is. You had a question?
I think it's very important for people to know that you really can't scam the bank.
That's true.
We look at everything, we know what's going on, and I hear a lot of people saying, my cousin told me all we had to do was do this. There's really no line when it comes to buying a house. It's better for you to be straight up front, say what the issues and problems are, and get them fixed before you bring it to the bank. That way you have a lender that's wanting to help you out. The moment you kind of turn the lender off, your prospects of getting a loan from that bank are probably over.
Yep. Yep. There's no better way to, yep, you're right. Anyway, I want to talk to you guys about a home warranty, right? The home warranty, I typically like to say that it covers everything on the inside of the house, right? You know, if something breaks, an appliance breaks, your home warranty, that's typically about $350 to $500. You can get someone, you can get the seller to pay for that, but consider which home warranty company you go with. You know, some are good, some are not so good. Some offer free services, but they stink. You know, you get what you pay for with everything. So just have a understanding on that. And so we gotten all that. We've gotten all of our stuff. We've done our due diligence. We've found a house. We've done the negotiations. We've gotten all of our documents to the bank. They've gone through loan processing and underwriting, and everybody is satisfied and happy. Then we get to the point where they say, listen, we're clear to close. All right? That pretty much means we're good to go. We're going to put together this final paperwork and send it to the title company and let them do their thing. Now, I want to point out some things for the purposes of this. We've actually changed a little bit, and it changed about a year and a half ago, where we're no longer on the HUD settlement statement. We're on what's called a closing disclosure. It's a tad bit different. If anybody bought their house way back when, like I first bought mine, we had a HUD one statement. It was real easy. One side was this and the other side was for the seller. I thought it was easy. The closing disclosure, what is required now is that the lender is to send this closing disclosure to the buyer 3 days before closing. 3 days. And what that does is, I think they call it a wait period now, right? Allows for you to see everything that you're paying for or that's getting paid for, and it shows you how much money you have to bring to the table, or, you know, if you work with, you know, an agent like myself or Robin, how much money you gonna walk away from with closing. We've done it. But you just need to pay attention to that, because you need to make sure that everything on there is what you agreed to pay for at the beginning. Okay? So review it, send it back as soon as you get it, right? So when you send it back, that's not saying that I agreed to everything that's on there. That's letting them know that we received it. And so what that does is that starts that 3-day period. Am I right, David?
Yeah, I'll say one thing too. They can be very confusing. Make sure you understand everything that's on that piece of paper. If there's an item on there, no matter how small, you don't understand what it is, make sure your lender or your realtor can explain to you what it is. Because there are certain things that can be added to their fees and stuff that you may not realize you're paying. So just make sure, no matter how small or weird it may look, don't be afraid to ask them to explain what that line item is.
Very good. I always suggest a client to do what's called a final walkthrough. When you submit your offer and you guys agree to the terms of the contract and it's executed, what that is saying is I accept this property and I'm getting this property in its current state and its current condition. And if anything changes from that point to the end of closing, then the seller is responsible for fixing that. And so that final walkthrough, during that final walkthrough, we want to make sure that everything that we said we were buying, including that nice chandelier that was in the walkway, you know, the microwave that was attached, the attached vent hood microwave deal, all of that stuff is still there. That's why you do a final walkthrough. There's been situations where we've done final walkthrough and whole windows are gone. Oh my God, dog, the window, right? And any damages that happened from that window being gone. The seller has to bring it back to the state at which it was in or better. So that's the importance of a final walkthrough. Do not, no matter who you work with, do not close without doing a final walkthrough, even if it's an investment property, right? You're buying an investment property, you walk in, you see, okay, I'm basing my deal. I see that I don't have to repair the AC. I don't have to repair the electrical. But you walk in there on your final walkthrough and now the electrical is gone and the AC is damaged. You as an investor now, it could really blow up your deal if you purchase it without noticing those things. Yes, ma'am. Yep, a day before you sign. Or even the day that you get your closing disclosure. Or the day of, whatever you're comfortable with. Gather items to bring to closing. You need your cash to closing. You need to make sure you have a government-issued ID and any other stated document that the title company tells you. They're going to say, hey, listen, I need you to bring this. If it's a certain amount of money, you'll already know that. Bring that in the form of a cashier's check. Right? I don't think many title companies aren't accepting personal checks anymore. All right? Or you can have them wired. Mm-hmm. If it's over a certain amount, they'll make you wired. But again, the big three, you, your realtor, your lender, y'all will coordinate all of that. And they'll tell you what time to show up to closing, what to bring, and all of that stuff, okay? And we're in the home stretch here. So get the keys from the previous owner. Some people just forget about that. Like, dang. When you get to closing, let me tell you, because of the amount of paper that you have to sign, it can be exhausting. You get there, you might run through 2 or 3 pens. And you think to yourself, God, okay, I'm finally done. You get there to take a picture and you walk out and everybody says, thank you for letting me represent you. And then we just forget to get you the keys. Or if you're like some of my, one of our old clients, I'm just like, I'm so happy to be done with you. Going on about your business. But the reality is, you just got to make sure you get your keys. Sometimes the seller will have it at the title company waiting on you, but you're not supposed to get your keys until it closes and funds. So you wait till that happens. Again, with your home warranty, depending on what kind of home warranty you have, some of those companies will offer a free rekeying service. They'll go out there and say, I got you. They'll pop that thing open, give you a brand new lock, brand new set of keys, and it's beautiful. I put this in here, and I know a lot of us have these duh moments, but because of everything that goes on, we just kind of forget. Transfer your utilities, y'all. Your lights, your electrical. Do that. If you do that, I say about 7 to 10 days, go ahead and schedule them out and say, listen, I need you to have all of this turned on this date. And I know there are some concierge services out there that can do it for you, typically for free. So consider that. Have a home professionally cleaned. This is all of the exciting part, right? We've gotten the house, we've gotten into it. Let's get this minor stuff. I think one of the nastiest things that somebody could do is walk into a house and put their stuff on somebody else's dirt. Just, some of the times we offer this as, kind of a closing gift for our clients, depending on the client. And we'll say, listen, hey, here you go. We have this nice little cleaning service. They're gonna come in on this date and hook you up. Change of address. We forget this often. These are some of the things that we forget often. We just forget. So go to USPS.com. I think they're gonna charge you $1. You can just submit all mail transferred and then do a change of address on all your utilities or your bills and all that stuff. Local, reliable movers. If you need a solid mover, there is a few companies that I trust, that I think here in the Dallas area that are the best in the industry. If you need their information, please just reach out to me. If you're in an HOA, a condo, from a man right here to ask about a condo, I think it's important to get in contact with the HOA to understand the rules and regulations, understand when the board meetings are, understand who's the board, get involved, because these are the people who are setting the terms of your HOA rules. All right, meet the neighbors. Yes, sir.
I have a question about the HOA. What has been your best resource for getting HOA information before you decide to go and invest in that property?
That's great. So your title company is going to get most of that information. They're going to get your resale certificate. They're going to get the financials from the HOA. They're going to get the rules and the bylaws. So you get all that. Depending on what you write in the contract, especially for investment purposes, you want to make sure that your HOA has a solid reserve, especially if they're paying for stuff like insurance and maintenance on the outside of the property, and you look around and the outside of the property looks like crap. That should be a warning to you that there may not be very many reserves in the HOA's budget. So consider that. Those are, in short, I said all that to say, your title company will pull most of that information. Meet the neighbors, right? So this kind of going back to just old school, right? Like real old school. I remember when we moved in a house in the neighborhood a long time ago, my mom, and it was 10 of us, so it wasn't, we wasn't a small family. We were pretty big. My mom and I think it was 4 of my brothers and we went and just met the neighbors. And I'm back there just like, hey, what are we doing this for? But I remember when we had a time of need, those same neighbors, looked out for us, made sure when we were gone out of town, nobody was breaking into our house, right? So you can be on that island by yourself, or you can be a part of the community. And I think actually meeting your neighbors and being vested in the community and actually getting to know the people around you makes for just a collaborative environment. Anybody else? Oh, I saw a hand.
Meet your neighbors, that step, shouldn't that come a little earlier than the end?
Well, you never know, because things could happen in a transaction where you don't close.
What now?
And you don't close. So if you,
I had an experience where early on, I went to meet a neighbor, and the community looked from a what they call cosmetic standpoint, looked well, and good neighborhood. But when I actually went to meet the neighbors, they were honest with me and told me not to move there.
well,
Because they said, we're having crime.
Nobody heard what you said in the back. Can you speak a little louder?
she said she
I was asking him, should that meet the neighbors come earlier on instead of the very end? Because I had an experience where I went to a community and the cosmetics of the community looked well and nice place to live, but when I actually went and talked with the neighbors, they were asking me, told me not to move there because they were having a lot of crime issues, break-ins and stuff.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So I was just asking them, shouldn't that come earlier on instead of the very end?
Right. Another thing you just triggered my mind, if you want to get crime statistics for those neighborhoods, you can go to the Dallas Police Department and go on their website, and I think they have it broken down by zip code.
By zip code, yeah. I was actually going to say that. Some people, if that's what you choose, do it before you close, right? Do it before you close. But, if you're going to spend time walking the neighborhood, meeting your neighbors, knocking on the next door neighbor across the street, I would say own the house. Otherwise, I'm going to open the door and look at you. Can I help you? But to that, you can always get crime statistics online. Number 39 is file your homestead exemption, okay? So if this is an owner-occupied property, right? Let me say this, once you get your property, you're gonna get a bunch of stuff in the mail from people. It's gonna look real official on an official letter, say, file your homestead exemption. We'll, pay us $100 to do it for you. Well, you can file your homestead exemption for free, but you can only do it at the beginning of the year. So if you buy your house in the middle of June, you gotta wait until January of the next year to file it. But there are additional tax benefits for filing your homestead exemption. Right? So whereas, if you have a $100,000 property, there are some of the little districts that will only tax you at $80,000. And so it saves you a couple $100. So make sure you file that. Your agent should let you know that. I kind of send an email out at the beginning of the year to all the clients that bought houses that say, hey, file your homestead exemptions, and then I give them the link to where they need to go. So it makes it easier. So if you're in Dallas, Denton, Collin, Denton Wise, wherever, you should have it there. And then this is just a little fun, little step, throw a party, let people know. Let me sponsor it. I'll bring some nice barbecue or food or something if you let me do that. Let me introduce myself to some of your friends so, we can keep this thing going, keep the money circulating a little bit. But that's all I have for you. If you need some information about anything real estate, go to my website, scottie-smith.com. You can find a bunch of listings. I want to share with you some quick things. How much time do I have? 5 minutes? 5 minutes. Okay. In this next 5 minutes, what I want to tell you guys about are some things that some resources you can use right now to help you with your down payment, closing costs, and to what to look forward for. So write these down, look into them after you leave here, or come talk to me about them later. We're going to go with the Dallas MAP program, Mortgage Assistance Program. Mortgage Assistance Program offered through Dallas. Some of the areas they cover, some of the areas they don't. However, if the property is being sold or built by a nonprofit, you can get up to $20,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance. If it's built by a traditional lender, you can get up to $15,000. 15, 20, still a lot of money no matter what it is. So Dallas MAP program, all right? I want you to write this grant program down. It's called the SET 5% program, SETH. You can get up to 5% towards your down payment and closing costs. Let me say this, with the Dallas MAP program, there is an income restriction. Most of it's based on AMI, area median income. It's typically between 80% and 115% of the area median income. So for a 4-family household in the city of Dallas, the family can't make collectively together no more than about 70, I think it's about 77,000, 72,000, roundabout. So that opens up a lot for us. SET program up to 5%. All right. There is a new program that has reared its head. It's a 1% down program. Some lenders offer it. 1% down payment out of your pocket. They'll offer the 2% for the 2.5% from a perspective of the remaining of your FHA as a second lien that is forgiven if you live in the property for a certain number of time. I don't know specifically the number of time or the number of years you have to live there, but it seems like a pretty good program.
What's it called?
It is called the 1% down. If you come up here and leave your information, I'll send you an email. Who asked that question? I'll send you an email with that information. Okay. There's a CRA program offered by a number of banks where they'll do 100% financing. They'll also give you, in the form of a grant, $4,500 towards closing costs. The restriction on that is it has to be in one of the census tracts that they are allowed to be in. And so I think it's a beautiful thing, Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid. I'm sorry?
What was the restriction on this last one?
It has to be in a certain census tract. If you come here and put your email address here, I'll send you an email with that information. I don't want to promote any other bank because Comerica Bank is our sponsor. However, I want to be able to give you that resource, okay? I also want to talk about the NACA program. I'll admit the NACA program, I wasn't initially sold on the NACA program. And NACA stands for Agency Assistance. NACA, N-A-C-A. NACA is a wonderful program. They look at the person from a holistic standpoint, right? So if, 5 years ago, you had some bumps and bruises, and you've since then recovered, and you've been doing things for the right way for the past 2 years. They kind of look at that whole thing and don't just label you based on your score. They look at the entire picture. And so it's a nonprofit lender. They offer no down payment or low down payments, extremely low interest rates with no closing costs and no PMI. So those are great programs.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can I say something about NACA? I mean, I agree with you. I think they're good in terms of what they have to offer the client.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to a seminar.
Right.
And I was very disturbed by what they were telling the people that, a group of people that were like first-time home buyers that really didn't have the background in buying homes.
Mm-hmm.
And they are a mortgage company. They do get commissions off of those mortgages.
They do.
They're selling people. And what they were pushing, and which I challenged the guy on, they were pushing people to the 30-year fix. And I'm like, okay, but why would you do that when a person can get a 15-year note, pay that home off quicker? But everybody at the seminar, he was pushing the 30-year fix.
I think that's an opinion that we can kind of argue back and forth. Typically on a 15-year fix, you're going to have a higher mortgage payment. However, most people only live in their first home for about 7 to 8 years before they sell it off. So we can argue that point.
But he wasn't really presenting that option. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
That was just my opinion on it.
Yeah, no, I think most mortgages, most mortgages are 30-year, typically because it gives you some flexibility, unless you have a higher income where you can handle a higher note,
Right.
And you have the plan to kind of set it out and pay it off in 15 years. But most people, as going through this program, they're first-time home buyers. They may be, new families. They're not going to live in that thing the full 30 years, especially with the market doing what it's doing. I say at the 7-year mark, you need to sell and go go build you something.
If I had the opportunity when I first bought my house, and when I was a first-time home buyer, to know that I could pay it off in 15 years, I would have liked somebody to tell me that option.
Okay.
So that's all I'm saying.
I got you.
From a knowledge standpoint.
So my question is that you talked about the people involved in the process, your advisor, your lender, and you should also have a financial advisor.
Yep.
A financial advisor can speak more to what you're talking about to ensure that you're making a decision that's in your best interest financially. Everyone else, when you think about the process, is getting paid. So whether they're your advisor, your agent, your lender, the mortgage owner is going to, he's going to get a commission or she's going to get a commission, but the advisor should be in your corner giving you the best advice so that you can make an informed decision as opposed to expecting to get that from a lender.
Yep, and that's why we're real estate advisors, because we kind of take, from a standpoint of, advising you on what to do. Here's your options. You choose, red pill, blue pill. Here's what you get with this one. Here's what you get with that one. And you choose. We don't pressure you to do anything.
Yeah, well, NACA is a good program, though, especially if you had credit issues.
Yeah, it really is. And then the last one that I shared yesterday, if you're interested in a brand new house in the city of Dallas, please consider the Dallas Land Bank program. Right, you have to have a builder to purchase the lots on your behalf to build you a home. However, the lots are only $5,000. Right, so if you go into any builder community, right, when you go in there, say D.R. Horton, and you see, the lot premium that they have is way more than $5,000. Right, so you got the lot premium. With these lots, they're only $5,000. They're in some areas that, are, up and coming.
What do you mean by that?
I'm gonna let you use your imagination.
Is there a
Well, yes and no, right? So if you are a certified builder with the city,
Average citizen.
well, you have to be
If I wanted to go and buy as much as I could buy, would they allow that?
you have to be a certified builder or developer with the city. You have to have built at least one home that meets their criteria within the past 12 months. After that, they only let you purchase 10 of them at a time.
Do you have to have just a regular person 10 at a time? Okay.
Additionally, they're going to ask you for, what your plans are. If you're just a regular person that's considering developing these things, they're not just going to let you buy them and sit on them. They're requiring you to build on them in at least 3 years. At least 3 years. And they're going to ask you, say, hey, what's your plans? Let me see your plans, your structures. They're going to ask for your financials to make sure you're capable of building. They're going to ask for your team, architectural designs. They're going to have you come and sit in front of the committee. In addition to that, they're going to have you come sit in front of the council. But it's $5,000 for the lot. If your builder comes in, you buy the lot for $5,000, and you have a budget of $150,000, you can build a really, really nice house, for that. So it's there is a stipulation. There is a stipulation that you have to live in the house. If you are an owner occupant, what I'm saying is you have to be a certified builder to even purchase them, or a certified developer with the city. So once you become a certified builder, a certified certified developer, you can go in and do your thing with it thereafter. There's my time. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, visit me online. Thank you guys for allowing me to be here and listening to me.
My name is Michelle Burgess, and I definitely enjoyed the seminar today. I think it's really important with home buying, even if you've been a home buyer in the past, which I have, but things have changed in the market. There's a lot of different programs that are available, and as I'm looking toward the future and thinking about investment properties, really just trying to get some more information, have a better understanding. So I just encourage anyone to review the information and just be sure that you are equipped for whatever it is that you're trying to move forward with your goals.
Hello guys, my name is Jan. I live here in Dallas, and this morning I had the opportunity to attend the Empower series on home owning. And as a student, I am now preparing myself to own a house in about 5 to 10 years. And I wish you were here because we will receive valuable information that we could use, not only to save, but also to prepare to own a house. So make sure that you attend the next Empower Series event on July 15.
Hello, my name is Twala, and today I attended the Empower Series, the 40 Steps to Buying a Home with Mr. Scottie Smith II. And I will say that it was very informative and it's very needed, because just like anything in today's society, things are always changing. New laws and new restrictions are coming out as it relates to buying a home, so it's very important that we stay abreast of what's happening. And buying a home is a very major step. It can be very scary for the first-time home buyers. Definitely don't try to do it alone, because you need the help and assistance of those who are experienced in this area and know what they're doing. And you can find out more information about upcoming workshops at theempowerseries.com.